probably open in live chat. That might be I assume we're starting up. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Awesemo.com live before lock show. We'll be talking about the day's DFS slate, where we have 8 games, I think. So lots to talk about, lots to work through, lots of chalky options out there that are going to be very popular, and we're going to try to get away from. But we'll talk about those throughout the hour. I'm Chris Baggs, joined today by the baseball savant himself, Mr. Jake Hari. How are you doing, Jake?
I'm doing well. Had a successful weekend or week of DFS. I guess I feel like it's like Monday because it's after the 4th of July. But I've had a successful first few days of the week. And yeah, I got to spend time with some family. So it's been a good week so far. So I'm excited to play some more MLB DFS, even though it's not the greatest slate in the world.
Also, my video is not on the display. They can hear me, but...
What?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
It's fun. Jake will fix that. Jake is producing and co-hosting on the fly. There we go. Now we're all good. Now I have a face, not just a disembodied voice. But we are going to talk about these 8 games. I don't know. Where do you want to start? I guess let's talk about the pitchers. I think that's going to probably decide a lot of things. Justin Verlander, a guy that Jake highlighted in today's daily game plan email. If you want to get another bit of information delivered to your inbox every day, that is one that we have now. If you sign up for an account on Awesemo.com, free or premium, your email will get that in your inbox every day around 1 p.m. Eastern. But Jake, let's talk about Verlander. What are we doing? What are we doing with him?
Yeah, so best pitcher on the slate by far. There's no doubt about that. Like raw projection, all that stuff. The problem is his ownership, and you don't see chalk like this very often. And I'm been looking for reasons to fade him, and I've come up with I think enough. Just like ownership by itself, he's not had a good stretch of starts. It's still gonna be a scary fade, but there are some guys that can get to him. I think Moncada, Palka. Avisel Garcia, I think, is a fine play, as well as Jose Abreu. So it's not like just a cakewalk matchup for Verlander. The bottom of that lineup is pretty bad, but even Matt Davidson has big power. So it's not the easiest matchup. I don't think he deserves to be 70+% tonight, which is kind of what we're projecting, or over 60, and I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think also his price, especially on DraftKings, is so onerous. If you're pairing him with any stack with any sort of price behind it at all, you're just going to be stuck. I don't know. It's not the best outlook, I think, for him. That said, I feel like our ownership percentages are very high on him. I do feel like it's going to be closer to 50% when it comes closer to lock, just because I think you're going to either make the choice to play him or not, and your lineups are going to look wildly different if you have him in or you don't have him in. But what else are you feeling good about relative to Verlander then, if you're not going to be playing him?
Yeah, that's the problem with the Verlander fade or underweight. I'm going to be underweight on him on DraftKings, and then on FanDuel, I think that he's so far ahead of another option, and I'll just take the raw points with him. And there's so many 2K guys that are playable where I'll be even with the field on FanDuel for Verlander. So I'll say that. But on DraftKings, I think that I'm just paying up for all the big bats, like Verlander's teammates, the Astros, a couple of guys on the Mariners. I love the Nationals. I'm sort of going underweight on the Twins as well on DraftKings because I think they're going to be super popular with Verlander. So I'm just hoping that lineup construction doesn't work out and I can take out a lot of the field with the Verlander, Twins, Shelby Miller people. So
yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I'm also a little lower on the Twins as well. I think a couple of those guys look pretty good, but the thing is, Cashner, he doesn't grade out well as a pitcher, but he limits hard contact well enough where he's not going to get rocked in the way that you would want. I think with a lot of people are going to be, especially 5-man stacking, 4-man stacking that Twins lineup. Cashner's not good, but I just don't see him having that kind of night where they're going to be worth possibly the chalkiness that they are. A lot of people, we have Jorge Polanco being projected for super highly owned, I presume, because he's the new cheap thing. But I think it's an easier fade of the Twins than it might be otherwise. Let's see, who else? Who else on the pitcher side do we feel like has potential? Max Fried, people are talking about in the chat. I have a fair amount of Max Fried. Kind of worried about Max Fried. Not a great sample size, or not a huge sample size rather, but good success so far. How do you feel about Max Fried tonight?
Yeah, he's certainly at the upside. I think he had an 11 strikeout game a couple starts ago, and like that's super valuable. That's hard to do. So he showcased the upside. There are some strikeouts in the Brewers lineup, and I've got some Fried. I think I'm a little bit more on him than I was this morning, but still, I think probably like my 5th or 6th highest owned pitcher on DraftKings. So he's whatever. I think that he definitely is one of the pitchers in this range that has upside. I think I prefer Marco over him. So do with that what you will, but certainly a fine option in the Weaver, Gonzalez, Fried range. So I like all those guys a little bit. And then Hellickson, like, worrisome because now you don't know how long he's going to pitch.
You like Marco more than Max Fried? I'm surprised by that. I feel like that goes. I mean, Max Fried getting some good swinging strikes. He's a little better at holding off hard contact. I'm surprised by that you would be more into Marco.
I mean, it's close, but Marco lately is getting the swinging strikes. He's getting the chases, and against some good teams too: Yankees, Red Sox, Royals, and then the Angels was 4 starts ago. So I don't know. I don't mind all the righties in this Angels lineup. I just think Marco is pretty steady. I think he's somewhat safe on a night where I think you just need your pitchers not to get blown up if you're not going with Verlander, because you're already having a much different lineup construction, and I think Marco can get 20 points here or close to it.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it's not a big get. I guess for anybody else playing out there, if you're not a premium member of Awesemo.com, you should be, because you can see all the ownership projections, but one that we'll talk about, I guess, given that angle. Max Fried and Marco Gonzalez. Max Fried projected for 21% ownership on DraftKings right now. Marco are projected for a substantially lower 20%. So it's a 1% difference between the two. You're not getting much of an ownership play. I don't know, man. I guess the Angels bats scare me. The Milwaukee bats also scare me a little with Fried, but I feel like he's missing contact enough where I felt better about it. I don't know. I do think they're similar plays, and I think you might be right that Marco can perform similarly. I guess I'm just not off of Max Fried to get on Marco yet.
I think that's fair. So here, I'll just give you the ownership that I have of each of them. So we've got, on DK, I've got Marco at 40, Fried at 27. So it's not like I'm making a huge stand where I'm like 50 and 10 or something. I think those two are both fine options. I just prefer Marco a little bit, and that's reflected in my ownership right now.
All right, that's fair. Let's talk about Shelby Miller, another guy who's projected to be very popular tonight. He's been terrible since he's gotten back. He's going against the Padres with a 25.8% K rate versus righties. What are you doing with Shelby Miller? I guess, what are your thoughts on him? And maybe a Padres stack if you're not feeling him.
I don't like the Shelby Miller chalk. The Padres stack, I think, is getting more and more in play as we're seeing Shelby's ownership throughout the day. I like the power against him with Hosmer, Myers, and Renfroe. I don't know. I mean, Shelby just hasn't been good, and he's not getting swinging strikes. Like, he's getting strikeouts, but I don't think he will continue to do that. And if everyone's going to be on him, I told Josh this morning, I don't think that Shelby's going to break the slate with like 25 DK points. So, I don't know. All those reasons, I'm like very, very low on him. I don't even know if he snuck into like even 5% of my lineups.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think there were some lefty bats who can do some damage. And I think the Padres recognize that as well, because their projected lineup didn't have as many lefties in, and they put in a Suaje, bumped up. I don't know if they bumped up. They bumped up somebody who was also a lefty. Hosmer, I think, is a good fit tonight. I actually like that mini stack more until they had their whole lineup in. And I think I would go Jankowski, Suaje, Hosmer, Spangenberg, and then one of either Renfroe or Myers. I think I have a little more Myers than Renfroe tonight. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Miller's not a great-looking play. I still have some of him because he works well price-wise, and there's the hope that maybe his third start back, his stuff looks a little better, and maybe he's missing bats more. But it's scary to have him as a chalk play tonight, because he's a guy who can get rocked even by the Padres.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I I just don't see him being chalk. Like, if he was going to be 10% owned, then okay, I guess you can take a shot on him against the Padres, but I don't think it's worth the ownership, honestly.
Yep, I agree. Who do we feel like is maybe going under the radar opportunity-wise? I mean, there are a couple of bad to not good pitchers on the slate with the what's-his-face Slegers, and I don't know. Slegers in particular jumps out. Eric Lauer, too, I would say fits that criteria. How do you feel about the cheap guys who people might try to squeeze in there and try to make work?
Yeah, so Slegers, I wrote him up just because he's like a fine punt option, a little bit a way to get a little bit different from from Shelby Miller if you're going with Verlander, and he's cheaper than Miller. It's just a good matchup for strikeouts. I know he's not a big strikeout pitcher in the minors even, but I don't know. I don't think he's terrible, and that's good enough for me against Baltimore, at least for 5,400 on a slate where I don't like any of the pitching options, so might as well get a couple cheap guys, and he's one of them that I like.
Yeah, I'm okay with Slegers as well. I feel like I didn't play a ton of him just because that total on the Minnesota side is a little daunting. But, I think he looks okay. His whip has actually been not terrible, so he has been kind of keeping the damage to a minimum. There's still some numbers there that are a little worrisome. His hard contact numbers have been pretty brutal in the majors, 48% almost. But, we're trying to make it work on a somewhat short slate. I think he's a cheap guy. I also don't mind Eric Lauer, and I hate that. And maybe because I've been burned a few too many times by the Diamondbacks lately because they always grade it out pretty well, especially versus a lefty, and sometimes underwhelm. I do think, though, that Lauer can maybe get some strikeouts in that lineup. He is a little better versus righties, and they are loading with righties. He's one of those guys tonight. I think he's either a -5 or he'll get you 20, and I don't see much in between for him. How do you feel about the Diamondbacks and maybe about Lauer?
I love the Diamondbacks. They're one of my favorite stacks, so I'm not a fan of Lauer at all. Just way too much hard contact. I don't think he's a very good pitcher at all. And then I love Goldschmidt, Ahmed, Pollock, J.R. Murphy. I think he's down in the 8th spot, which kind of sucks, but maybe that'll get his ownership a little bit lower, but he crushes lefties. I like Kettle Marte. Souza's fine in the 5 spot. So I love stacking up against Lauer.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple Lauers and I have a couple Diamondbacks. I mostly just feel like I don't have a great read on either side there. I've been playing too much Diamondbacks, and they often underwhelm. So that'd be my one caveat if you are playing them. It's an okay team total, not a great one. And Lauer does strike out righties more, 8.5 Ks per 9 versus 5.1 versus lefties. And there's a lot of righty bats in there who can strike out there. So I don't know. I think that'd be the one reason I think Lauer is an okay play. But I agree, the Diamondbacks don't look terrible, but whatever. I'm not falling for their tricks. Not your siren song, Diamondbacks. It's not working on me today. How about Weaver? Any thoughts about him? Somebody in the chat just asked. He's a guy who I think is priced in a way where he'll probably work with a lot of different lineups.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like Weaver really as a pitcher, but or at least I think he's overrated. I think some people are starting to come down to earth on him. He's not the biggest strikeout guy, but it is a phenomenal pitching park that he gets to play in tonight. So for 7,900, we don't have him being chalky. I don't mind that. Just as a way to, like, if you're going with 2 mid-tier pitchers like a Fried or a Marco with Weaver. So I'm not in love with it, but I have some Weaver.
Yeah, so I also feel I have probably a little more Weaver than you would have. Same reason I had Tyler Anderson. I was pretty big on Tyler Anderson yesterday, even though it was in cores, just because I feel like the Giants miss enough where there is value in maybe having a guy who gets swinging strikes against them, and Weaver does fit that criteria. Also not a great pitcher, but again, like Jake mentioned, they're at San Francisco, which is a pitcher's park. So I actually don't mind Weaver tonight, and I would rather have him than Barria. I was kind of trying to force Barria a little bit, but really there's too many righty bats who I think can hit him on the Mariners side. So I would rather have Weaver with their DraftKings pricing.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit worried on Barria with Haniger and Cruz and Seager and Healy even. Like, I'm come off Barria a little bit since this morning.
Yeah, he's just so much worse versus righties, and I don't know. Like, there's obviously a lot of righty power there. That the whole crux of that lineup is righty power for the Mariners. But then you also have Zunino down towards the bottom of the order who will strike out but can take him deep. So I'm not crazy about Barria tonight. Even though at the beginning of the day I felt like his price kind of made sense. It's just I'd rather go a little cheaper. Yeah. Johnny Cueto, people asked about before. He's I think Jake, you said he's projected to have about 85 pitches tonight. How do you feel about him? Is that enough to get it done versus the Cardinals?
I think he can get it done. And the reason you're playing Cueto really is because you're trying to kind of pivot off of Verlander. And, Verlander doesn't pitch a great game like he hasn't in his last few starts. Then Cueto can be perfectly fine for 11-8. I don't expect him to be like a great point per dollar or anything, but he could get you 20 plus here in 85 pitches if he is efficient. Like, that's asking a lot, but I think that at the ownership we have him projected at, which is very low, then there's no problem playing Cueto if you don't want to play Verlander.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there's strikeouts to be had there. The Cardinals strike out a little bit more than league average, and Cueto does miss bats pretty well at a rate, on the higher end of tonight's slate. So I'm with Jake. I have a fair amount of Cueto. I think they're pretty interesting. That he's pretty interesting tonight. People are asking about the Braves. Are Braves sneaky tonight, especially lefties? One versus Jacob Trivers. Obviously, Julius Chassin is not a fantastic pitcher. His lefties numbers are much worse, and that actually is a reason that I have a couple of Braves stacks. How do you feel about the Braves versus Chassin?
Yeah, I feel like the Braves aren't getting talked up a lot because they only have a 4.2 run total and stuff, but Chassin is not good against lefties. Hasn't been for a while. So I don't see the reason not to go with a Freddie Freeman or Albies or Markakis, who people never play. Sort of a pay up to be contrarian spot for this Braves top four.
Yep, I agree. The top four, and then I would also go Camargo. I think I'm generally more of a Camargo guy than not. He is better versus lefties, but still, I think he fits well. He's got the dual position flexibility. So actually, I think a 5-man Braves stack works. I think you could also go with a 3-man with some combination of NCR Day, Albies, Freeman, and Markakis. But yeah, I think that is a spot to strike with Chassin, and one that will definitely go under-owned. Mm-hmm. The Nats had a Scherzer-led players-only meeting recently since they need to start a winning streak. Does news like that make you guys on-off the Nats more than you would usually be? For baseball, I don't think that matters. What do you think, Jake?
No. I mean, they're a much better team than what they've showed recently. We've talked about how good their lineup looks on paper. They just haven't put it together. I mean, they could lose 10 straight, and I would still want to play them if they had these 10 guys these 9 guys with their statistics, especially the top 6. So I'm just not worried about it. Like, I think they're a great player regardless of how many games they've lost recently.
I didn't see the Mariners lineup got confirmed, but yeah. So one thing about the Mariners, Zunino is out, and Chris Herman is in. Herman, I don't know, however you want to go with that, depending upon how ethnic you feel. So no Zunino. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think the Braves are interesting. I think the Nats are interesting. I don't think a narrative thing in baseball, especially like narrative we never push, but in baseball in particular, I don't think you could be more motivated, especially in the middle of the season before the All-Star break. I don't think that's going to change that much. They're good hitters. They'll either get on track or they won't. Let's see. Can't rah-rah your way to hitting homers. That is also correct. I would agree. Any Detroit tonight? They were a bit of a weather concern before. I think those concerns have cleared up. But I guess, how do you feel about the weather in that game with Texas and Detroit? And how do you feel about Detroit in general?
The weather in Texas and Detroit, I'm keeping I don't have much pitching exposure. I have a little bit of Boyd, but nothing crazy. So I'm just keeping my exposure to that game. It looks like it might just have a late start. And I like the bats on both sides. So Andrus Beltre, Profar against Boyd, and then Detroit's stack I don't think is going to be... I think it's going to be under-owned against Gallardo, who just doesn't miss bats. And I don't mind Adduci, Hicks, Goodrum, and Castellanos, of course. Even though he hits lefties better, still can hit righties just fine.
Yep, I actually, I think the Detroit stack is a little interesting tonight, and all the guys that Jake just mentioned. I think Gallardo obviously has had some struggles, and I think the Tigers are they're a team who's not super impressive on paper, but they do have a couple guys that can rake there. I think Castellanos works as a one-off. I think you can stack him up as well. More contact for Gallardo, or hard contact versus righties, but he's pretty bad versus both sides of the plate. So I think you can go a couple different ways. Probably not deeper than a Ducey, but yeah, I think the Tigers are a pretty interesting little pick. Josh Singleman, the Chubster himself, is in the chat going with Logan Morrison for his home run pick. So I guess we might as well make ours. Jake, who are you thinking for a home run?
Let's see. Home run pick. I'm not going to go with the Chalk Twins. I will go, I guess. You go. I thought I had someone.
I'm still pulling up. I'm pulling up my comparison sheet now.
All right.
Nobody jumped to mind as being the dude right away. So.
Yeah, let's go with Bryce Harper. There's the narrative for you. Harper donging after the players only meeting.
Oh, okay. You're using narrative to your favor. I like that. I feel like I want to go against Shelby Miller. Do I really want to do that though? No. I'm going to stick with Seattle just because I feel like Barria is a weak enough matchup, and I actually have a fair amount of Nelson Cruz, so I'm going Nelson Cruz tonight.
I like that. I think that's got a very good chance of happening. Yeah, people are calling for Cruz in the chat.
Oh, glad we're on the same page, guys. Carpenter. Oh. What? Why is Josh doing a middle finger emoji?
Because I said Chalk Twins, I think. I said I'm not going with the Chalk Twins.
Oh, no Minnesota Jakes for you. That's sad.
Yeah, I said a little subtle jab saying he was picking Chalk for his home run.
I don't think Logan Morris. I think that was a perfectly great pick. Yesterday, you might have missed that I went with Arenado and he went with Bregman because it was Independence Day. I was going to be shamed into not picking Arenado. And then it happens to be a 1-0 Coors game in which nobody does anything. Just one home run for Iannetta. So, look, home runs are a tough game. Even the chalk can fail violently in your face.
Yeah, 1-0 Coors game is usually going to lose a lot of people some money. If that happens.
Yeah. I didn't go crazy there, but I did go crazy on Tyler Anderson. And I was shocked that he did that well. I thought he was, maybe a 20-25 guy. When he had like a 36-point game with, I think, 10 strikeouts. Not in the likeliest of outcomes for a home run hitting team in Coors, but sure, why not? Let's talk more about the Nationals because you talked about Bryce Harper. They are going against a pitcher with a very limited sample size, but some decent stuff in Pablo. Is it Lopez? It's Lopez, right?
Lopez.
Yeah, so how do you feel about the Nationals, and do you have any Pablo Lopez tonight?
I don't think I have any Pablo Lopez. If I do, it would be very, very tiny amounts. I love the Nationals here. Lopez had a good start in his first one, so great to see for a team that needs a spark, the Marlins, but I don't think he's going to be able to replicate it against all these good lefties like Eaton and Soto and Harper, Murphy. It's just too tough, I think. So I will pass on any significant amount of Lopez, and then I have a bunch of Nat stacks. They're one of my favorites. I think top 3 for me.
Which Nats are you stacking up then if you are going with them? Because they're a little pricey, but there are some ways to kind of maybe find a little less or a little value in there. Who are you stacking up?
Yeah, so Harper, number 1. He's my dong pick. And then I think I like Soto after that, then Eaton, then Rendon, then Murphy. Murphy just hasn't been the same this year just yet since coming back, shaking off some of that rust. I hope he's not still hurt, but I think he's been hitting a little bit better in the last couple weeks. So hoping he can turn it around and be like what he was over the last couple years, which was one of the best hitters in baseball.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. I still actually hold on. Sorry, I got thrown off by the chat real fast. Any contrarian Miami bats versus a sick Hellickson/Rodriguez?
Bohr.
I don't think Miami looks great. I don't mind Bohr, but besides that, I don't know. How do you feel about Miami?
Yeah, just Bour, I think. I don't know if that'll end up with any Miami stacks, honestly. So it's just not a great team, and I want to pay up. Oh, I should say Real Muto as well. I like Real Muto. But
yeah, I think Real Muto is the good. If you have money left and you don't have a catcher who fits your stacks, throw on Real Muto. I feel like that's just his role in life right now as Marlin. But I agree, Real Muto looks pretty okay. Yeah, I feel like a mini stack maybe with Real Muto, Bour, and maybe Anderson. I don't know. I feel like that's probably about as deep as I would get with Miami tonight. How about the Brewers going against Fried? This reminds me because I'm replacing Mike Zunino, and Eric Kratz is an option to replace him with. How do you feel about the Brewers tonight with Fried kind of having limited sample size, kind of being not great versus righties so far?
The Brewers? Oh, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that Eaton was in the lineup. I was looking at something else, the lineup from earlier that I hadn't updated since it got finals. But anyways, so you can't play Eaton. Don't play Eaton. Hopefully your site won't let you play Eaton. I like the Brewers against Fried, and I just like Braun and Aguilar against lefties so much, and even Broxton a little bit. So it's just a pretty easy team for me to stack up, especially when people want to play the pitcher against them. I mean, I'm playing Fried too, so it's not like I won't have both sides, but I do just Braun Aguilar against lefties. I'm almost always looking to play them. So
yep, I agree. Braun Aguilar, and I think Broxton too. I mean, a little narrative street, but he's really heating up. Like he had an amazing home run catch the other day too versus I think Dozier. He just robbed it from over like the fence. He's been playing really well. I think he's really embracing the starting role. So I like Broxton too. I definitely have a couple of 5-man stacks, especially to balance out the amount of Fried that I have. I think they're a good hedge stack if you are playing Fried.
Yeah.
How about Michael A. Taylor as part of the Nat stack that we kind of breezed by? Is that a place that you would consider going to? I think he looks okay if you're going to the down part of that stack.
Yeah, the only guy I don't really like is Severino. So 1 through 7. I mean, I like 1 through 6 the best, but Taylor's not a guy I'm gonna like force out of my lineups if he ends up in some Nat stacks. I do prefer the other outfielders above him, so Adams, Soto, and Harper, but no problem with Taylor either.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's about right. That Taylor is definitely an obvious fourth out of those guys. Mm-hmm. Actually, rank them all. Who would you go 1, 2, 3, 4 out of those 4 outfield eligible nationals?
Harper, Soto, Adams, clear top 3, and then Taylor 4th.
I would think I would put Adams above Harper with the price difference, and Adams' numbers are really strong. I mean, he's obviously not getting the hype of Harper. Also, fun fact, Harper is only batting .215 on the year, which is outrageous. I get it's like a different ball game. His OPP is what matters with all that. That's just absurd. You can't be an elite player hitting .215.
That is kind of incredible. I mean, I had no clue until a couple of days ago. Someone said he was batting like .220, and yeah, it's just weird. Like, don't pay attention to batting averages at all.
Yeah, it's just outrageous. But I mean, like, as a point of pride, though, I mean, you know, baseball is a sport that's steeped in lore, and the fact that there's an elite player who is, you know, one of the most famous guys going to the All-Star game, going to the home run derby, and he's batting .215.
Well, if the Nats are looking for a trade, I'm sure the Cubs would be interested. You can ship him over to Chicago.
That's true. Why no Trey Turner? David Riggs asks in your Nat stack.
No, I mean I love all the Nats. I was just saying my favorite ones. I said 1 through 6 a couple times. Yeah, I like Turner just fine. So I actually looked up Lopez just this year, very small sample. I think he's got 4 or 5 stolen bases against, but a few of them came in one game in the minors. So I mean, I'm just comfortable saying it's a neutral matchup. I don't think he's amazing at preventing steals. I don't think he's bad at preventing steals. So nothing. So if you want to play Turner, it's for the hitting as much as it is. He's got stolen base upside against almost everyone. So I think he's got potential to steal here.
Yeah, I think Turner is still probably one of my lesser favorite parts of the stack, just because I've been, I wanted to get some Murphy. But yeah, I think he's still fine. He also, like, the reason he grades out a little less poorly, or a little less well rather, is because he doesn't have as much pop. His power's just a little beneath the other guys. But I agree with Jake. He's still a fine play. I think I just would rather have a little more power when I'm stacking that up. So Shane asking again about the weather in Texas and Detroit. Any updates there? Anything else that you're worried about, Jake?
Nothing else that I'm worried about. I still am fine with the weather at Comerica, but I'll pull up the radar here in just a second, and we'll take another look. Comerica Park.
Yeah, it went back down to yellow on Fantasy Labs.
Okay. I just saw a late start, possibly, like from some of the beats and stuff, but we'll see.
Pauk Zipzer I like Souza and Matuk for nothing. Sure. Okay. Thanks, Pauk.
On FanDuel, I think Matuk's 2K. So
yeah,
that's fine.
They're both in lineups. Matuk's hitting leadoff, so sure, why not?
There's like 5 guys that are 2K you can play on FanDuel tonight.
What pitcher would you pivot to from Verlander on FanDuel?
So on FanDuel, there's not really a pivot. There's not really on DraftKings either. It's a $1,600 price difference from him to Cueto. But if I was, I don't know, I'd probably, it's not a pivot because it's $5K in price, but Marco, I like. Fried, anyone who's got upside that's significantly cheaper, which are a bunch of pitchers. I would have said Hellickson before, but now with him being sick or whatever, I'm not taking that risk that he's going to get pulled in 2 innings if he starts out bad. So whatever, but Marco or Fried, I think. Those are 2 guys with some upside if Verlander doesn't pan out.
Yeah, I still, granted, I'm not playing FanDuel, so I can't speak to this exactly, but I feel like Cueto is the only other guy maybe who would see having not the same upside, but similar upside. But yeah, I agree with Jake. I think FanDuel, from what I understand, it seems like you're playing Verlander or you're not tonight. And I think,
just to reiterate, yeah, I am playing Verlander a ton on FanDuel, just because I think he's got such a good chance to be the raw point scoring pitcher, and I have much, much less of him on DK.
Michael Wilmoth asking, does no Zunino mean a downgrade for Marco?
I don't know. That's a good question. I haven't looked at catcher stuff in a while. So, here, let's see how Marco pitches with Zunino. So I'm just going on Baseball Reference. We can do something else. It's going to take me a second to find this.
Okay. Cueto won't get out of the 5th. Okay, maybe, but he's got about 85 pitches to work with and get some outs, so it's totally fine. If he gets me 20 points and maybe a win, I'll be completely fine by that.
Yeah, from Cueto, you're looking for like 6 innings, 6 or 7 strikeouts, and a chance at a win on DK, and you're just hoping that Verlander doesn't crush the slate. Like, if Verlander goes for 35 or 40, you're just done if you fade him anyways, because there's going to be enough cheap bats that go off. But that you're just looking for him to outscore Verlander in the event that Verlander isn't the nut SP1.
Yep, I agree. Safest plays tonight, playing this free FanDuel GPP that's shaping out like a cash gamer.
Say that again?
Safest plays for a FanDuel, I guess, like a free tournament thing.
Verlander would be the safest play for pitcher, and then I don't know. I don't think any hitter is necessarily safe, but I would be looking at some of the guys we talked about. Like I love Bryce, Daniel Murphy, super cheap on FanDuel. You could just go like Braun is 3,200 on FanDuel against a lefty. That should never happen. Love Goldschmidt, Pollock, Ahmed. These guys are all cheaper than they should be, in my opinion. So you can fit them all with Verlander. It's kind of crazy.
Why is everybody saying HBO? What?
What?
I don't know.
Oh, it's good. Could they hear what was in my earpiece right there? I went on Baseball Reference and an ad popped up.
Okay. I couldn't hear it, but I think it's because I'm just on the Skype audio. They must have been getting your... Good thing you weren't watching hardcore pornography. That would have been awkward for everybody involved.
Yeah. Save that for afterwards.
No, also, I would just be very confused by why you were doing that during the stream. Of all the times in the world to do that, that'd be a tough time. Who are the chalkiest players Pauk Zipser, just sign up for an account on Osmo Premium. I mean, Osmo.com, become a premium member. We're not telling you all that. So that's way too overbroad of a question. Justin Verlander, he's very chalky.
Yeah, Verlander. Verlander's going to be chalky, I can assure you. Let's see, who else? We got 25 minutes to lock. So it looks like, man, that is probably a little bit of a downgrade to Marco with no Zunino. It just looks like he's been better. Only made 4 starts with Freitas as his catcher, and then none with Herman. So I don't think Herman is a great defensive catcher, but I'm still sticking with Marco and a lot of him. So.
All right, I didn't get to Marco at all tonight, so I'm hoping that it's a major downgrade. That's how. It's like a tough matchup. I'm surprised. I'm just surprised your Marco choice. I really am.
It's a slate thing. I mean, I'm deathly scared of Trout, scared of Upton, scared of Simmons, but it's just, I don't know. He's been good lately, getting chases, getting swinging strikes, and that's just something I tend to believe in, even in short samples. So hopefully he can do it one more time, and then I won't have to deal with my name attached to Marco Gonzalez.
Yeah, I mean, I just on my chart thing, I have like a scale where if guys are green with like a white text, or they're the most elite kind of players and hitting wise, or at least on base numbers wise. And Fletcher, very limited sample size. Fletcher, Trout, Upton, Simmons, and Jabari Blash all fit that criteria. I think all hitting up above, or all getting on base above like 360 or so. I don't know, man. Victory goes to the brave. So you are playing Marco, and I guess along with 20% of the other people. So you're all very brave to me.
Someone's asking if, TMCB is right. Osmo's lineups are generally posted toward the top of the GPP results board. Yeah, they are. So if you want to see Osmo's lineups, neither of us are Osmo, Jerome, if that's what you're saying. But yeah, you can find him at the top of a lot of tournaments night to night. So,
Jesus, I appreciate our growth, but sometimes people just say dumb shit in the chat now because we get these random stragglers. But Jerome, may stick with it. This isn't a tout channel. This isn't a place where we're sharing lineups. We're just talking about the slate. Stacking against Shelby, people are asking again, I guess, about stacking against Shelby Miller. Yeah, we have no problem stacking against Shelby Miller, and in fact, I think we might feel like that is the more positive play than playing him tonight.
I agree. I just don't think Shelby has that much upside, and there are some Padres bats that definitely have power. It's a good park for hitting, and Shelby hasn't been good either. So it would be one thing if he was good and he's going to be chalk because he's super cheap, but he has not been that good. And also, circling back, someone was asking about Marco getting rocked the last time he faced the Angels. He went 5 innings, 7 Ks, gave up 3 earned. I don't know. That's not getting rocked in my book, but he also had a 12% swinging strike rate, which I like to see. I mean, that's not getting rocked to me. So that's actually more encouraging to see that.
People asking again about Weaver as a Miller pivot. I'll give my thoughts again about Weaver. I think Weaver looks okay. I think he misses bats enough. I think there are some strikeouts to be had for him tonight. So I don't mind. I mean, we just saw it last night as well, where I felt similarly about Anderson, and Weaver fits a very similar criteria. A pitcher who will give up some walks and hits, but if he misses the bats on San Francisco, and I think he can, then he'll have an okay night. But Jake, what are your thoughts on Weaver one more time?
Yeah, Weaver, he's just a generally confusing pitcher for me. Not someone I find myself playing too often, but just because I can't go all in on Marco, I can't go all in on Fried, so I'll have some Weaver in this range on DK. Once again, I don't think he has big upside. There's one guy that has massive upside on the slate, and it's Verlander, and everyone knows that. And then everyone else kind of, I don't see anyone getting to like 25 points. There might be a couple guys that reach 20, but I don't see someone that has anywhere close to Verlander's upside. But if he's not perfect, then Weaver could be a guy that gets you around 20. Just decent at missing bats. I think overrated still, but relatively low owned, and that's enough for me in this huge park that he gets to pitch in today.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me that game sort of looks like a pitcher's duel. I mean, that's definitely my hope as well with both Cueto and Weaver. Of course, watch it go the opposite way now, but I think for me, Weaver misses bats enough. I think he does a good job at limiting hard contact relative to some of the other pitchers on the slate, and I also am not terrified of the Giants lineup. So I think for me, that's why I'm okay with Weaver. But he's like Jake mentioned, it's Verlander in terms of ceiling and upside and all that, and just a bunch of other dudes, and you're just sort of making guesswork of them. I think at this point.
Yeah, multiple lineups is. This is the guy that called Josh a bum earlier today. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Boy, you got an adversarial morning strategy video today. I didn't realize.
No, not really. Just towards the end, he was getting a little out of control.
Just towards Josh, which is fine and well deserved.
When doing research for pitchers with catchers, what are you searching for? Sierra. I just go on Baseball Reference, and you just search the player on Baseball Reference. So I searched Marco Gonzalez, went and hovered over the splits, and then you have pitching and hitting. You click on pitching for that year, and then you can just do like a Control F and search catcher, or the splits will just drop down, and then on the bottom right there's it says by catcher, and you can look up just like surface stats like ERA and stuff like that. Not like you can't look up like hard contact with different catchers. That'd be nice if you could, but that's where you look just to get a general idea of how they pitch with different catchers.
There you go. Boy, I don't like when people straggle in and ask the super basic things that we try to touch up front, but is Verlander a must play? No, I don't think there's ever anybody who is a must play technically.
Yeah,
maybe on fan.
Yeah.
Closer.
I completely agree. So Verlander is a much, much, much tougher fade for me on FanDuel, just because you've got an abundance of super cheap guys and just generally underpriced guys like Braun and like Nick Ahmed and Daniel Murphy, all guys that I love. So Matt Adams too. So you can make a really good Verlander lineup, and you can make 150 really good Verlander lineups if you wanted. I considered doing it, but I didn't go 100% on FanDuel, but closer to 100 than 0, I'll tell you that.
There you go. What percent of your lineups do not have Verlander?
Okay. Let's see. I can't look at the percentage on FanDuel, but I think like 70-something on FanDuel, and then on DraftKings, I have 11%.
Yeah, I think I'm in line with you for DraftKings. To me, like, even 50%, it's like whatever. I'm not trying to stay with the field for Verlander. I think I could find guys who are going to give me 20 each, and hope for the best with my backs. So that's my approach for at least for a DK GPP. Gino took second in attorney last night. Might have not for premium. You should do it because it's an investment in your future, and it's also an investment in game theory. So you know how people are playing, the different ownership projections, all the things people try to ask us. We're free every day that we give you bits and pieces of, right there before your fingertips. So go sign up, Gino. If you do, we'll give you a shout out.
Someone's saying so you're going more off JV than on for FanDuel. No. I have like 70% JV in my lineups on FanDuel. So
yeah,
like I'm over the field on FanDuel, well under on DraftKings.
Yeah, I agree. I think that in general for DraftKings, I would go off it just because he's chalk, and you have 2 pitcher slots, so it's possible to get off him. Whereas FanDuel, it's a little bit different of a math problem there. Let's see. Virage, there's a bankroll management thing on Osmo.com if you want to read that. I don't think that's something we really need to get into today, but don't spend more than you could lose would be my one caveat. Who would you pick for an SP2 and a DK GPP? I guess that's sort of an overbroad question. I don't know, Jake, who do you feel like is going the least recognized on the slate for an SP2, I guess, for DK?
Well, he's not going unrecognized, but I think Marco is my favorite SP2. Then Freed, then it was going to be Hellickson, but I'm just excluding Hellickson. So I don't want to deal with the guy that may or may not come out in an inning or whatever. He said he's going to try to pitch. No one knows what that means. Baseball is tough enough to try to predict, and Hellickson isn't a guy who's super excited about playing anyways, so I just crossed him off. other options in this mid-tier. Weaver, we mentioned. And Sledgers, I think. He's fine, just as a punt. I don't think he's any sort of great pitcher, but a great matchup.
The Angels lineup is out. Fletcher is leading off. So I already liked Fletcher. I think I like Fletcher more, but I don't know. Now that Jake likes Marco Gonzalez so much, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
Let's see how Fletcher's been doing. I haven't looked at him. He doesn't come up yet for me because he hasn't had a minimum of 20 at-bats against either hand since I downloaded last, but I just kind of want to see how he's hitting.
He get a home run the other night. He's getting there. He's getting there.
All right. Let's see. We can go on to the next question.
I'm just updating lineups. The Giants lineup just came out as well, so if you guys are waiting on that, that is, I think, maybe the last one. No, we still have the Cardinals that are out remaining. Oops, that's the wrong one. Whatever. Anyway, being a premium member is worth it. I want a trip to Vegas playing DFS contests and using Osmos projections. Thanks, JM. We've been getting a lot of people who are premium members who are tweeting us tournament wins, so it's not just us touting. It is a genuinely helpful thing. Whether you use the rankings as a Bible or not, I think the ownership projections alone can pay for it if you are a tournament player, because a lot of things in there you can learn about how to differentiate your lineup based upon how the rest of the field is looking. So go sign up now. Haniger or Castellanos on DK?
Haniger. Man, yeah, that's tough, but Haniger.
I think I would go Castellanos. I like the Mariners more as a stack, and I think Castellanos can stand on his own, so I'll go Castellanos. I know it's lefty versus lefty, but any love for Gallo tonight?
Gallo always, unless I manually take him down lower on my exposure, he always comes up at 10% which is kind of a lot for someone you're not trying to force in. Just because he hits the ball so hard, and every time he puts the ball in play, it's almost hit hard, and that's valuable for me. And he's going up against a guy that is not a huge strikeout pitcher but can strike out lefties, so I don't hate it, especially if you're stacking up the Rangers. I think he's going to be really low owned, and you've seen the kind of upside he has. So yeah, I don't mind Gallo.
Hey guys, have $100 left on FanDuel. Should he keep Reddick or pay up to Mancini?
Keep Reddick or pay up to Mancini. Let's see who I have projected for more. So you've got to find Houston. I would go with Reddick, but it's close.
Yeah, I do like the matchup of a lefty versus Rodon, because actually he is pretty bad versus lefties, even though it is a same-handed matchup. I would take the total, though, and probably go with, what's his face? Go with Mancini. Let's see. Are you guys doing a lot of one-offs or stacks? I think in general, I'm still stacking. I don't know. I think in general, the approach is, if you want to be plus EV every night, the approach should always be stacking. And if you like one-offs and they work salary-wise as part of in conjunction with the stack, great. But still be going mostly for stacks. I know you guys aren't big on BVP, but what are your feelings about a White punt? Two home runs last time he played Rodon. I think White grades out well. I mean, this is the point of not going BVP, is that a guy like Tyler White, just looking at his regular numbers, his on-base percentage is 318. His isolated power, obviously a somewhat limited sample size, versus a lefty, 368. So that's crazy high. His BVP numbers don't matter. The fact that he hits home runs at a crazy high rate versus lefties is what matters. But I don't mind Tyler White. He's not a core part of my lineup, so I think I have one of them. Jake, Tyler White, and I guess the Astros in general versus Rodon. How do you feel?
I love the Astros. Absolutely love them. All the righties against Rodon. Rodon is good, but if you're looking for a BVP play, which I think is more this kind of data is more valuable, Gaddis has a 95-mile-an-hour average exit velocity against Rodon in 4 batted ball events. That's still not a big enough sample for me to be I need Rodon I need Gaddis in my lineup, but still I think that's more valuable when you're looking at BVP than just 2 for 6 with 2 home runs. You want to see how they're hitting them consistently. And it may just be the handedness or what kind of pitch they throw or whatever. There's a lot of confounding variables in BVP. So I kind of got off on a tangent there. What were we asking?
It was Tyler White, and I guess the Astros in general versus Rodon.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of Tyler White, but if you're getting contrarian with that Houston stack, I certainly understand it in the 7-hole.
Shane asking how many lineups I have. I have 20. I have a max 20 in the table setter, and I think like 7 or 8 in the rally cap. So, max salary. I feel like, in general, for me, I'm always trying to get close to the salary. But there may be a couple times at pitcher where I had 9,600 left, so I went down to a Baria or a Weaver. But in general, I don't think I had more than 1,500 left today. Malcolm revamp. I joined the MLB monthly membership.
Nice.
Good job, Malcolm. Just keep looking at everything, and just keep watching this stuff. The more you immerse yourself in both the ownership rankings, also those articles, the ownership projections rather, and the actual rankings, the more you'll kind of get a read on these slates and understand where the value is, how to find it. It's more of a rewiring your brain kind of thing about how to approach this stuff if you're a new DFS player. I don't even know what that means.
Aaron Rasmus is asking, are you off of JV only in GPPs? Yeah, GPPs on DK. On FanDuel, it's a little bit dicier for me. I have well over the field Verlander on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I think it's a lot easier to get creative with the 2-pitcher setup, and you may not even need Verlander, even if he has 30 points, if a couple expensive stacks go off, where you're going to need those top bats. So if the bats are crushing tonight, then you may not even need Verlander on DK with that dynamic pricing.
Okay, I guess the Cardinals lineup is now out, so that was the last one left. I don't think anything too surprising on there. A couple changes, but nothing crazy. I'm not stacking against Cueto anyway, so I'm fully ride or die for Cueto tonight, for better or worse. Machado or Harper on DK? I presume this guy just has money left over and can go 2 different spots.
Machado or Harper on DK? Ooh. Harper. He's my home run pick. I got to pick Harper.
Yeah, if you guys have any either-or picks, get them in now. We have about 7 minutes left until the slate locks, so we'll speed round some if we get enough in there. Justin Bohr can mash tonight. Sure you can.
Harper, just going back to Harper, it seems like he always goes on like an epic tear like once or twice throughout the season. This would be a good time for it. So just throwing that out there. That's a narrative thing, and that doesn't matter. But it is a good matchup. And
stop pointing your home run pick up on everybody.
No.
Your 215 hitter home run pick.
Yeah, he can hit 215 as long as he's hitting 50 homers.
Outrageous. Once I saw that the other day, I just can't shake it. I mean, like, I know there's enough guys who, like, sometimes you see, but boy, that's crazy. That's just crazy. Baseball's changed so much.
Yeah.
Would you rather have Slegers and Harper or Marco and an outfielder 3.9K and under in a DK GPP?
Where's that question? Sleeger. Oh, okay. I see it. Slegers and Harper or Marco and an outfielder 3,900 and under in DK GPP. I think I would go Marco. I feel a lot better about Marco than Slegers. But if you really, really love Harper, then by all means go with Harper. I think he's a phenomenal play. But I think you can find some $3,900 outfielders that are fine. Like, just scrolling by, I like Goodrum and let's see who else is over here. Someone asked about D. Gordon. I'm not really on Gordon that much. It's not a great steals matchup, but then that's usually when I want to play D. Gordon. But like, you can play Souza or Renfroe, or there's a ton of guys. Reddick, we talked about. There's a ton of guys at 3,900 and under that you can play.
Either or. Would you do a Washington-Arizona stack or a Minnesota-Jakes Padres stack?
Oh, that's easy. Washington, Arizona for me.
I actually would agree with that, but the Minnesota-San Diego stack is interesting to me too. I think that you're getting off the chalky Twins, and we do have a good run total. Yeah, I still think it's Washington, Arizona, but it's close. It is close.
Yeah, I just love Arizona. That's why, and I like Washington a lot. So, I mean, I'm just fading the Twins ownership in that one.
Any love for VR hitting leadoff tonight?
Yeah, 3,400. I believe he hits righties better than lefties, but anytime you're getting a $3,400 leadoff hitter at second base, which is in a super deep position tonight, then I think that's fine. But only a 77 WRC plus against lefties going back to last year. Strikes out a ton. So not a great play, but fine for his price.
Yeah, I mean, as part of a stack, maybe I think Fried has been weaker versus righties so far in his limited sample size, giving up more hard contact, 33% versus 26.7 to lefties. So I think there's some benefit to VR switch hitter going in there. I feel like if you're stacking up the righties on the Brewers, then maybe you skip Yelich and go VR. But as a one-off or something, I'm not crazy about VR. I don't think that's somewhere I would want to go. Seager or Beltre on DK?
Seager or Beltre? Beltre.
Yeah, I agree. It's Beltre. Seager, in a lefty matchup, it's not that great. I think Beltre grades out as one of the best third basemen on the slate, so it's Beltre for me. General question: are you more inclined to pay up for a pair of pitchers and go cheaper mid-tier stacks, or pay down for pitchers and load up on expensive stacks?
I mean, yeah. So Immortal Syndicate, he's got it right. He or she has it right. Depends on the slate. I mean, on like a big slate, I'd like to get one cheap pitcher at least, so I can pay up for the big bats. I mean, people say it all the time that bats win GPPs, and we saw it with the Newcomb -4. What was that, a couple days ago? Me and Josh were looking at it. Guy won a GPP with a -4 by like 11 points. In general, though, I will say I like to pay down for at least one pitcher spot if I'm making lineups by hand.
Yeah, I mean, I've been going cheap pitchers more often than not lately, and it's been more beneficial than not. But obviously, that's just my experience. But and a lot of what we do every day is also trying to mine for gold with pitchers. So I think that probably helps more than it would otherwise. But I don't know. I see the value in paying up. I think my feeling on it is you're paying up for safety and you're paying down for volatility and risk. And the volatility and risk can pay off often, but you got to be willing to do that. And you got to be able to identify those guys. So if you're comfortable with your ability to find those guys, then yeah, pay down. Otherwise, you should try to take the safer pitchers in better spots. You guys think tonight would be a great to be Cantorian on some lineups? I'm gonna hope that English is not the first language, but. Jake, do you have any Cantorian takes tonight, or contrarian, depending upon?
Contrarian takes. So
I talked Cantorian. That's easier.
Yeah, I like both sides of the Brewers Braves game. I think that game's gonna go under-owned. I don't think the Diamondbacks are gonna be contrarian, right? Do I have that wrong?
The Diamondbacks, I'm not sure. I don't have that in front of me.
I can look it up quick, but I love the Diamondbacks, so I'm well overweight from what we had them this morning, and I'm assuming it hasn't moved much since then. And then I will say, we haven't talked about this yet, and it's 1 minute to lock, but if you're fading Verlander, it makes sense to get exposure to Moncada or Palka or Avisel or Jose Abreu. So, I mean, on the lineups where I don't have Verlander, I'm trying to get one or two of those guys in, just because you're assuming that someone's going to get to him, and I think it's going to come from those top 5 or 6.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see. Somebody asked, Turner or Machado at shortstop?
Machado.
Yeah, same for me. Where's I said that? No. Immortal Syndicate knows how we think, apparently, from watching the stream.
Yeah.
Look, you probably do. That is, we put our brain on display every day for these, and that's sort of the goal. We're not as much a pick show. I mean, we make picks. We try to lead you guys in directions, but it's more about learning how to think about the stuff so you're not getting fucked every single night. Does paying down for pitcher depend on which site you're playing? I don't think you get a -4 and win a tournament on FanDuel. Julian, yeah, that's correct. You're correct. FanDuel in general, I think the rule of thumb is to pay up. But Jake, what do you think?
I agree. You need a pretty big score out of a pitcher on FanDuel, because there's not enough expensive bats usually. There's a couple cheapies that do well, because they're mispriced on FanDuel pretty much every night. So it's a lot easier to pay up for a 10K pitcher over there.
Yep, I agree. And now they're like dissecting the show in the chat. Like, we appreciate you guys who can read our brains as well at this point. You know, we do this every day, so there's a lot to pick up. If you're playing against, especially if you're playing against us head to head, we'd be so boned. Let's see. All right, I think everything should be locked now. I don't know. Anything else you wanted to touch on? I guess anything that popped up during the show that you feel like maybe you're overexposed to or underexposed to?
I feel pretty good. I felt like I had the good amount of time to run crunches and stuff and find one that I like. And yeah, I hope you guys got into that one. If you're trying to get into the MME game, get into that mini max. Especially on Thursdays, they've been doing a 50-cent mini max. So if you want to max it out, it's 150 lineups for $75, or you could do like 50 lineups for 25 or something like that. That's quickly become one of my favorite tournaments and Josh's favorite tournament as well.
There you go. Wait, one more question. One question to wrap your head around. If you have two pitchers facing each other, but they're both the clear two best, would you play both or play the one whose team has a better W chance? I would play both. I don't really care that much about a win on DraftKings.
I mean, I care about the win. You like the extra 4 points? Yeah. But strikeouts.
Both great, though. Like, you'd rather have a great pitcher getting like 10 Ks than,
100%. Yep. Strikeouts are king on DraftKings is how I like to put it. So.
Yeah. Harper's 21.8% owned. A lot of people could be rejoicing in your home run pick today, Jake.
Yeah, hope so.
All right. If you're not subscribed to the channel, which I assume most of you are at this point, but if you're not, make sure to do that so you'll know whenever Josh and Jake go live in the mornings, whenever I go live with whoever I'm left with on the live stream, and whenever Josh has a new video or one of us, who knows, Jake's night shift. So many pieces of content going up every day, so make sure to subscribe and like all the videos. It helps us out. If you're not a premium member of Bosmo.com, now's the time to do it. All the ownership projections and rankings that we discuss on here every day, the things that people try to give us for free by asking overbroad questions, they're there for you if you become a premium member. It'll help your game out genuinely, just knowing how people think and how they play and what the ownership projections are. So go sign up, check that out. Jake, any parting words?
No, good luck, guys. If you faded Verlander, good luck. I will be rooting with you on DK.
Yeah, so let's go Max Fried. Rooting for you, guy I barely know. So we'll see you guys again tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck.